Hey guys, get ready with me. I'm so grateful I didn't get blown away by a tornado. We had nasty weather here yesterday. I'm shooting this on Thursday morning and I get really nervous about stuff like that. Like, I'm knowing everything that's happening. I'm all over all the National Weather Service stuff. I know when there's a mesoscale discussion. I'm into it. Pup and I have both been very deeply into the weather for years and years. And you guys know how I talk about spring, and I'm not a huge spring fan because spring seems to bring a lot of severe weather, and we were definitely bullseyed in it yesterday. We were upgraded to the level 4 risk. We were in the bullseye. And guess what? A tornado did happen. It was probably 5 miles from us-ish, on the ground, confirmed. People had pictures of it. It was not long-lived, and it didn't come right through our town, but it definitely set off that warning in our town. For all we knew, it was headed towards us. I had that super panicked feeling of let's get the kids and the cats in the basement. The kitties, whenever they test those sirens monthly, they get super freaked out by that sound because I think there's a really close siren going off somewhere to our house. So they were really hard to wrangle and get in the basement. I can hear Biddy down there crying and carrying on. We eventually get down there and I'm like watching the severe weather coverage on my computer, and it looks like it's staying south of us, and it ended up being, I think, a very short-lived threat, actually. I think it did cause some trouble, but in a pretty confined area, but that was just scary. Even in all these years that we've lived in this house, and there have been lots of severe weather incidents happen, that's like the second time I've gone down to the basement for something. So we made it through that, but there were multiple rounds. Like, there were storms going through before that, there were storms coming in after. We had a full-on rainbow, and then another line of storms and a tornado warning. Yet another line of storms between like 10 and 11, Bow Echo coming right at us, tornado warned storm for a short time, and then they took it off and it was just a severe thunderstorm warning, but still they were talking 70-mile-per-hour winds, so that comes through. Super loud, super heavy rain, but we made it through, and I'm so thankful. And that was my stressful day of severe weather. There are some people who I know go through a severe weather day and they're like barely paying attention to anything, and they're like, oh, you know, slept through that whatever, or glad nothing worse happened. It makes me really nervous. I don't know if it's my time on the news. I don't know if I've always been this way. Maybe I can remember really heavily watching Local on the 8s back as a kid when I was nervous about weather days, but nowadays there's so much information, and having done news, having seen many times over catastrophic tornado situations, it just makes me nervous. And they say, like, be prepared. Don't be afraid, be prepared. It's hard to not be afraid. So if you're also kind of scared of severe storms, I understand you. We need to get on with the makeup though. I'm using just some new makeup, okay? This is something I got from the Dollar Tree. It's B.Pure. It's my Hydrating Primer Serum infused with rose oil. And I've used it once and it worked out pretty well. So I'm just going to use that again. It does have a great rose scent. Feels really thin, feels hydrating. Honestly, feels kind of soothing to the skin as I put it on. The main new thing that I want to show is the new ColourPop Big Palette. They have a new Mega Palette out. So we're going to do that, but also I wanted to do like a powder foundation tinted moisturizer routine. So I thought I'd use the Revolution Super Dewy Skin Tint, which I showed in a haul in the past but didn't use it. This we have in the shade Medium. Just spurted out. Watch out for that. Okay, I've got what appears to be about a full pump, but we're really gonna think about how much coverage we're getting out of this. But yeah, I've always taken a real interest in the weather, just generally, not even in a nervous, anxious way. I've always really enjoyed the weather and keeping track of it and knowing what's gonna happen. But I get deeply concerned when tornadoes get involved. So I'm gonna take this e.l.f. brush here, my little duo guy. But yeah, we're experiencing some really light coverage here. I don't know if I would even call it light to medium. I just call it straight up light. The medium color that I have, I actually haven't self-tanned in a few days, but it's shearing out just fine. Blending right back into my skin really well. It totally felt like a movie when I was rushing around the house trying to get a cat who didn't want to go in the basement, and the sirens are blaring and there's a kid screaming in the basement. And I can also do the perfect tornado siren sound. They're so spooky. It's like, and then they like die off and then they start up again. Super dewy. all over. I guess I would have to say I am looking and feeling dewy after that. Coverage is really light. It's definitely not the kind of skin tint that's standing head and shoulders above other ones that I really like. And some might say, well, Em, does it always have to be like good coverage for you to really pat the product on the back? And I would say no. If it's not giving me good coverage, I want it to give me a really pretty radiance or something. Here I don't feel like we have a ton of radiance or coverage. Sheesh, life's crazy. You know, one week I'm getting consumed about the guy who shouldn't have gotten kicked off of American Idol. And this week I'm hoping my family and my house doesn't get taken out by a tornado. Natasha Denona has a new powder foundation, hy-glam powder foundation, Blurring Flex Tech hybrid powder. Really nice kind of chunky packaging here. 36 shades. Use it as a setting powder, they say. Use it as a foundation. There's a sponge that comes with it, and I think I may use that. You could use it with a brush as well. I was sent this in the shade N6. Again, beautiful design here. You've got your little puff on the back, which kind of feels like world's softest, gentlest sponge. You know, it's not super porous. So it's kind of good that we don't have a ton of coverage crossing the skin because we can see more so what this is going to do. So I'm going to pick up a little bit and swipe across the skin. Ooh, I should have set my under eye with something brighter than this. We'll just kind of leave the under eye and go over that in a sec, because that's usually what I do when I do powder foundation. If I had a skin tint or something, okay, and then I'd go on with a creamy concealer and then a powder. Look at what that's doing. Okay, it's capable of being really mattifying. Seems to be pretty darn full coverage. Like, I'm just picking some up without being real careful about it, swiping across, doing a real old school powder foundation application here, you know? The way I might have done it back in the day when I owned a CoverGirl powder foundation and you flat out didn't own a brush for that. So you just definitely were gonna use the provided puff. The shade's pretty good for me. It's just a teeny bit deeper than my skin tone, just by a bit. But I'm seeing mattified skin, but not really cakey looking skin. It's feeling like more coverage than I get with Laura Geller Balance and Brighten, but more similar to her Double Take, which does tend to have a more matte, full coverage look on the skin. So now I'm just kind of pressing over my skin. I'm just making sure that everything I threw on there casually actually is sinking in. I think it's giving a really good look. Kind of ignore the under eye because we're gonna have to go over that in a minute. If I wasn't so preoccupied thinking about tornadoes, I would have put concealer on first and then probably set it and then done this step. But all across the face, it looks really nice. You can kind of tell, like, when light catches my face, I'm not looking super dry and unnatural. It's really good. It seems definitely buildable. And this is with no concealer on first. I would say pretty darn good experience. I'm gonna keep working with that. Certainly capable of looking one with the skin. I might have gotten it a little heavy around the nose and pore zone to the sides of the nose, but I'm happy with that. Then I'm gonna go in with my Born This Way multi-use sculpting concealer. This is a recent repurchase for me, actually. I love this concealer. I realized the shade I had was A, almost out, and B, kind of a dark shade for me as well. So this is Cream Puff. And this is honestly a little bit darker than I was expecting it would be, but it blends in nice. It's still brightening, but this line just runs a little dark. I'm gonna add a little around the nose. I know this is kind of out of order for the way I did that powder foundation, but we'll be fine. We'll be fine, don't worry. I'm gonna blend this out a bit. This is a really great concealer though. I like using it just to conceal anywhere on the skin, but it also is a good touch-up concealer. It really is full coverage and tackles a lot, yet it doesn't have a real heaviness that makes you feel like you couldn't go back in with more at a later point in the day. Oh, one potential video idea was makeup I would pack if I thought a tornado was coming, but I couldn't even bring myself to do that yesterday, guys. I was just too nervous about the whole situation. Best I could do was make sure there were some snacks in the basement, and that was that. Okay, honestly, that concealer blended out just fine on top of the powder foundation. No worries there. But doesn't that stuff look good? That's a really good concealer. I mean, do you have any other products that are like that where they were good when they came out? I remember people just loving this stuff, but it just kind of slipped away over time. You know, other new things come out and people get their new favorites, but that's a phenomenal concealer. I am gonna set it a little bit. I'm gonna use some of my Quiet on Set powder from TheBalm. I have enjoyed these so much. Fair neutral for under eye, but if I come up here later in the day and I'm just kind of touching up my skin with a makeup makeup brush, adding a little more powder on. I'll use the light all over. It's really good. It really like restores the more perfected look to your skin. So I'm just taking Hot Pink Triangle and going over that under eye a little bit. Cut in some slack. She didn't get much sleep last night. She'd been frazzled. Slightly out of order, but still I think the makeup routine looks really good. I could go in with just a bit more of this if I wanted to and just make sure everything's cohesive between that powder, the new concealer that's been applied, and give you a look at how smooth the entire complexion can be with that stuff. I mean, this definitely covers, but does not look thick. Next thing, new thing, we're gonna use the NYX Buttermelt Bronzer. This is in the shade Deserve Butta. And by the way, these do have a little scent. It's a little bit sweet. Maybe I need to get the scent of Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer out of my head because I think it's making me expect tropical or something, but it's just a little bit sweet. It's world's most gentle satin finish happening out of this powder bronzer. It's very soft, a super smooth powder, but it's got just the teensiest bit of a satin finish coming off of it. So I've been enjoying this. This has worked well. It's very pigmented. As you can see, I get a little bit swiped up here on the forehead, and it blends in with ease. Is it head and shoulders above, let's say, Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer? I would say no. Like, it's nice, but I've got a lot of good powder bronzers. And if you want to feel a soft bronzer for probably, I mean, I don't remember what I paid for this, but I was gonna say, if you want to buy something that's probably gonna end up being half this price, okay, this is 10, and for less than 5, you can get the Instant Summer from Hard Candy, and that stuff feels super smooth and super high-end to the touch, and comes in several shades as well. It doesn't have this cute little chonk kind of fun packaging, but it's a good product as far as the product goes. So I don't know. I'm all about calling out a drugstore thing that has kind of jacked up its price. And I'm not saying $10 is terrible, but it's like I know there's still good quality and cheaper out there. And Rimmel Natural Bronzer, for that matter, if we're talking good drugstore powder bronzers. Half the price. Multiple shades, really good. Not quite that softness that this one and the Hard Candy have, but still a good quality bronzer. I haven't yet tried the blushes in this range, but I know they do have some pretty looking blushes. We're just gonna hit this whole area. So when I put this on, I really do have a hard time seeing a lot of glow on my skin from it. As I said, it's very, very subtle with the satin finish. It helps it look natural on the skin, but doesn't like make it bounce off or feel like, oh, it's so shimmery. No, I like it. I like the tone. I like the formula. It's an enjoyable product. It's just if you're trying to save, there's other options. Like I said, the Hard Candy. I've got these Kind and Free sticks from Rimmel. I think I've talked about the Berry Sweet one. These are a multi-stick product, so it could be lips, it could be cheeks. Really pretty tone there with the berry. You end up getting like this nice kind of sheer pink, actually cool pink if you sheer that out a bunch. I more recently got the Caramel Dusk shade, and I thought let's pop this one on today and use it as our blush. Okay, so just drawing it across a bit. This is gonna be, I think, a pretty subtle shade. What's it looking like on the lips? Ooh, feels good crossing the lips. Not too dry. Giving me that blotted lip vibe, kind of peachy, nude peach. By the way, I'm pretty much always gonna say caramel, not caramel. I just can't do it. Okay, she's looking cute. I like that. I was proud of myself yesterday. In anticipation of possibly needing to go to the basement, I shut off the doors to all the rooms up here upstairs. So the kitties, sometimes they like to hide away, and they've got places under beds that they like to nap. Not all the time, but sometimes they will do that. And especially if they get spooked by that siren sound, they'll go running. And I was glad I closed off the rooms up here so they didn't get somewhere where I couldn't grab them. Okay, that shade is really soft. I like it. This is for the subtle blush lovers, I think, this Caramel Dusk. I don't think a deep skin tone would maybe be so thrilled with this shade. I'm adding more. Few more swipes. There's no shimmer in it, it's just creamy. I do think this Kind and Free line has had some really good items though. They have a great mascara. These are nice. They've got a tinted lip balm thing in that turbo red shade. Oh, so good. Like great packaging design, great product. If you want to know more about Rimmel, check out my full face Rimmel video because we dug deep and we had great finds. It was just one of those videos where darn near everything worked out. Okay, I'm happier with that. Isn't that pretty? Look at this nice little finish. It's not even sticky, but you see how that's like light catching a little bit there? Cool. Okay. Caramel Dusk. One way I wanted to use this Glow in Love from Wet n Wild, this is their Radiance Liquid, new thing. I used it as a primer before, and I thought, let's try it as a highlighter today. I'm just gonna squeeze out a little bit. I think it's gonna be super subtle, but could potentially be really pretty. I'm just spreading that out on my hand. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. Grab a little brush and just see what that, oh, that looks super pretty topping off. Yeah, glad I trusted that hunch. Love. Wow, and incredibly sneaky. You cannot see product. It's just lovely. Lovely looking skin with that. Not overly sticky, just giving glow, not giving shimmer particles. Taking my remnants, hitting the forehead area. That's nice. And who would think, oh, this is a powder foundation face right now. Remember? Love. Fresh, nice. We're happy. For the brows, we do have some new goodies here from CoverGirl. They've got their clean, fresh brow products, a thicker pencil, a thinner pencil, and also a clear gel, the clean, fresh brow gel. I've tried both of these. Of the two, I prefer the skinnier one, but if you do go for a thicker brow pencil and you like those kind of teardrop shapes, that's what that is. And the shade, by the way, is dark brown on both of these for me, and it's very, very appropriate, very good. I just feel like I have a bit more control with the finer tipped one, and it seems like an extra fine tip. It seems possibly even smaller than a Brow Wiz. Let me know your take if you've picked this up and you've tried it, but don't you think that's maybe thinner just by a little bit? The actual product there, I think the size of the package is the same thickness as most skinny brow pencils, but the pencil is just tiny. And I love the way it goes on. It looks really natural. Super natural here on the inside, if you're doing any filling in there. It's just hair-like. Benefit has a new really, really skinny one. And this is kind of what that reminds me of. Yeah, I'm using this new Milani skinny pencil that I have as reference. It's for sure thinner than that. And this looks like your standard skinny pencil. The little micro brow pencil. See, it's not like it took me extra long to fill in this brow because the pencil was skinnier. It fills in fine. I just feel like I have a lot of control. When I'm watching the news and I see that widespread damage that like takes out a whole part of a town or a whole entire town with tornado damage, like it does affect me. I really feel for those of you who have had to go through that. Being on the news, I definitely covered some destructive and catastrophic tornadoes. I just really feel for anyone who has had to experience something like that. They call this the Brow Enhancer Gel Wax. I find that this works really well. It holds nicely. To look at the brush, it does seem a little bit different than just a pure wet gel. You can tell there's a little added thickness in there, and I guess that's the wax. That's what makes it a gel wax, but it holds the brows in place super nicely. Is it giving Control Freak a run for its money? Yeah, I like this a lot. I'm able to kind of stand up those innermost hairs, make everything do what I want it to do. And the brush is still really small, so I don't feel like I'm overdoing it with product. I would say really well done, CoverGirl, on those things. They put out some great quality new brow stuff. Now I'm gonna prime my lids with my usual love, my Milani eyeshadow primer. I'm about out of this tube. I'm kind of at that phase where I'm squeezing it out like it's the end of a tube of toothpaste, and sometimes I squeeze out way too much. It comes out too fast, what's remaining in here. You'll have one of these tubes for a long time. It'll look like it's about gone, and then you'll keep using it for months. I know I've said that before. All right, so the mega palette from ColourPop that's new is called Precious Metals. This was sent to me in PR, and what this collection consists of is this mega palette and then 6 of these Jelly Much metallic cream shadows. These lay down a lot of color. I swatched these all on my hand when this stuff came in. They're very light, like even to touch the product, you're like, is there much in there? It's very light. It's like a jello mixed with a cream with a lot of metallic pigment, and these just spread on with fully opaque color. They don't stay real sticky, although I will say if you're trying to wear that for long wear all day and you get a lot of it up in your crease area, it could crease a little bit. And that may have been operator error, getting a little too much on, because you really don't have to use a lot. Even just a thin swipe over with some of those shades just gives a glorious shine. So the colors they put out, they did every classic metallic. They did a full-on silver, they did a deeper gunmetal, a pure full-on gold, then a bronze, a copper, and then also a rose gold. And another nice thing about these, the way they package them, there's the twist off lid, but also a stopper, and you continue to keep that stopper in so that product doesn't dry out. But now let's talk about the palette, because the palette in itself has metallic shiny shades, and that's where I'm going to put my focus today, is just doing a look with this palette. You wouldn't have to buy some of that other texture in order to get a metallic look here. What they've done well, and what I often say about these palettes, is not a bunch of overlap. If you look vertically, you can see how some tones are kind of cohesive. We get a little bit cool throughout this whole half of the palette, but down here we've got like our kind of rosy copper row, our bronzy row, and our gold row. But within that we have proper tones of mid-tone mattes, light mattes, nearly a whole row of mattes down here. This one's got a little shimmer, but there's plenty of ways to create contrast with those really vibrant metallics that sit throughout this palette. These shades can be just so incredibly shiny, and they really need to be anchored by something, I think. So if you like it cool, if you like it warm, if you like somewhere in the middle, this palette's really providing that from top to bottom. So we're going to use this for our look today. Where to begin? I'm going to start with this one called Too Much. It's funny how it's named that, because it's literally like one of the most approachable shades in the palette, and I'm just going to use that with my Profusion crease brush and get this little light natural crease going. This is like a light khaki color. As you see it build up, you might be able to tell it's giving me like a soft natural crease. I like to start there, even if the shade might be a little on the light side, because then I can go in with one of the darker tones and it's gonna blend really well and really seamlessly with this kind of base shade going through the crease. Okay, I'm gonna take this other matte called Feel the Chemistry, matte cream color. I got cut off there, just a second. Really nice blending out the edge. Okay, now let's pick up a little bit deeper matte. I'm gonna go to Invest in Me right here. This kind of warm brown coming out of that copper row. You can definitely see the contrast being provided there. It's an interesting palette because there's so much vivid warmth in this side, but also you've got the cool. So who is it for? You know, it's somebody who just likes neutral looks all around, I would say, and does enjoy having those splashes of shimmer. Because if you just like neutral matte, then get the Gone Matte palette. If you're thinking, I love the idea of these large palettes, I like how there's kind of rows of different tones and whatnot. If you like that concept, get Gone Matte. You will love it. This is for those who want the shine as well. Do I like it better than other combined finish palettes like Bare Necessities? I can't really say I like it any better than Bare Necessities yet. Let me pull that one out for you. That's one that also combines, like, you know, some warm and some cool. All in all, I would say this is a little heavier on the mattes and also semi-matte finishes that might have a little sparkle but still apply kind of matte. And also they've got this rosiness in here that I really, really love. This kind of mauve-like row running right through it. Probably prefer this one over the metallics. And then, I mean, we could get into talking about Smokin' Hot and Stone Cold Fox and all those different ones. But the reason I brought up Bare Necessities was because it has kind of the most straight up neutral color scheme vibe. This, I think, is offering a lot of those neutrals, just some louder metallics. So it's kind of up to you, like, what do you enjoy? Do you want some of those metallic shades that are absolutely gonna pop off the lid? We'll get there. I will use some of those, I promise. For now, I want to try the black. I haven't actually used that in here yet. It's called Let's Do It. She's got a little chip out of the corner. That might have been where I accidentally dug my finger into it. That's a really pure, what you see is what you get black. I'm gonna make sure it gets all the way to the crease because it's not gonna make a lot of sense being there if it doesn't totally reach the crease, you know what I mean? That's like where the depth is coming out of. It's spilling onto the lid, out of the crease, a little bit up too. And we can bring in another brush to spread that around a bit, but this is a good shade. Fully matte. We're just setting the scene. We're laying the groundwork for a splash of shimmer. But yeah, ColourPop just does a really good job with these palettes. They're not overlapping a lot of shades. The quality is always so nice. And I feel like even among their neutral palettes, which is most of what I have, you know, it comes under the neutral palette heading, I'd say. And they're just really nice color schemes in there. What I'm gonna do next is take a color that's in some direction a little bit lighter than the black. I'm gonna go to my best asset. It's a dark, cool brown. And I'm gonna reach my crease with that and blend. And going one shade up from your darkest color really will make that crease and outer corner area look soft and just very pro, you know, pro vibes. Not claiming to be a pro, but you can make your shadow look that way with the right efforts. So again, that brown, lighter than the black, swirling it, getting the crease, so there is some overlap happening, and then swirling it up to however you want that to be shaped, okay? And if you feel like you didn't get enough black, like I can tell here, I've got a gap actually. What should be the deepest part, the black didn't quite get there on that side. Get a little bit more, flat brush. Make sure your deepest part gets your deepest shade. Good. And just blending over that once more. And this is where I kind of stop and think like, wow, that looks pretty, but do I want any additional like mid-tone kind of coming up from it all? I'm absolutely loving the way those shades topped off and blended. But yeah, I am going to take my crease brush, pick up a little bit more of Invest in Me right here. That was that warm brown. Because, you know, obviously sometimes we lose that when we do our blending, when we do our shade adding. We end up wanting that back again. It's honestly kind of like the color of an Amazon box. These are my favorite times in an eye look. Maybe it's just me getting older, I don't know, but I love working with blending those mattes together. It's so satisfying. Okay, so what will we choose to be our lid pop? This shade here called Not So Basic is really shouting at me. I feel like it's a copper and the shimmer in it is also copper colored as opposed to being just like a silver glitter or some other tone. A copper shade with pretty rose gold copper shimmer. I think that's what I want to see go on the lid. And we're going to see if we can do it with a brush. I've worked with a couple other shades here successfully with a brush so far as the shimmers go. I don't expect that this is going to have to be a finger application. Yep, the brush can really handle it. We're looking at a micro fine sparkle in here, like a really small glitter, okay? That's what this shade is made of. Not all of the metallics are that way. Some of them are maybe a more smooth metallic. Some look more like a classic shimmer, but this shade definitely has that fine glitter element to it. And I'm gonna be seeing throughout the day if that sticks and clings to my Milani eyeshadow primer. Some might say, well, maybe you should be using a glitter glue under that. But when I use a similar shade like this from Patrick Ta, it stays all day without me having to use a glue. So I expect this will last as well. It's got a really pretty reflectivity there. There's some golden sparkle in it too, as well as the copper sparkle. That's kind of what's making it special, I think. And it's not pure glitter, it's embedded in a metallic shadow. And I'm definitely just letting that color just overlap the black. Not fully, but just where, you know, the black ends, we're covering that up. I think that's looking really good. I'm just making sure I got my application even left to right. I'm happy that the brush can handle that type of a shade. If it can handle that, I think a brush can handle anything in this palette. The So Metal one is a little bit like this too. It might be more of a straight metallic actually. It just looks like it'd be chunky, but it's not that chunky. Hey Biddy, do you like my eyeshadow look? Mm-hmm. How'd you feel about your basement tornado experience yesterday?
My teeth were trembling.
Oh, you were trembling.
But luckily this one got saved. And my favorite animal crackers, which are probably still down there.
Biscuits is straight up laying on her back waiting to be petted. So we're happy about that look. I'm very pleased. I'm gonna go on lower lash line. I think this is calling for cold brew stick.
Looks good.
You dig? It's really sparkly, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it didn't go all over my cheeks either, with a ton of fallout, which is impressive.
I like your drawers.
I love these. I did a video on them.
Yeah, you should check them out.
Okay, we're going in with cold brew stick right here.
Ooh, cold brew stick. I don't even know what that is.
I just use it because it's kind of bronzy. Complete the metallic vibe, and this won't smudge on me all day. So Biddy and Nookie said kids were leaving school early yesterday due to the weather threat.
Some were a little nervous about the storm because maybe they thought they might get something bad happen.
They were nervous about it, yeah.
Oh,
That's
look,
understandable. I was nervous about it.
Oh, look, Nufflebugg's wearing
But the
it.
school is truly a very safe place for these kids to be, I think.
When the kids on the bus and the storm happened, the bus just drove back to the school and
Oh yeah, the warning happened during part of the bus route. That's where it got dicey, was the let out of school not too long after that tornado warning happened, so.
we did have a tornado.
But not right where we live, but within a fairly close distance.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to all of you who may have had a tornado. And if you're watching me from Kentucky, then I'm sorry something might have happened to your house. You've been through a lot.
Kentucky has had a lot of storms, yes, and Tennessee too.
Mhm.
I'm using the Lash Blast Cleantopia in the ultramarine shade. It's kind of like trying to be a navy blue. I think you can tell that it's navy. It's supposed to be brightening for the eyes. I like the formula just generally speaking, and it's dark enough that it feels like black, kind of, but I can tell something different's going on the lashes.
I'm using this lipstick.
Well, did you notice that that little makeup fridge is no longer working back there? Where should people go in their house?
A bathroom or a basement, or if they have one, they can go into their storm shelter.
Mm-hmm. What do you not want to be by? Any windows?
Or you wouldn't want to be outside.
Of course. Where do you guys go at school?
We go into a room with no windows. I go into Miss Allen's room, I think.
Uh-huh. Always at the start of the year, I think, don't you guys practice those different disaster drills?
Yeah, it kind of gives me the creeps.
Well, yeah, but at least if something bad happens, you know what to do and your teachers know what to do, most importantly.
Yay, they're putting a frame on my face.
Yeah, that says you're in focus and I'm not.
Yay.
I think it's time for you to go back and have your reading time.
Bye-bye.
There's that mascara on. See, it's a really good formula. Thank you, Biddy.
Look, lips on lips.
Lips on lips. Love it. So this is kind of one of those mascaras that piles up well. It seems like a nicely buildable mascara. You be the judge if you think this is any extra brightening for the whites of my eyes. I mean, I did come on tired today. I guess I can use whatever help I can get. But that was another new thing that came from CoverGirl. We're gonna use Cali Ray Come Hell or High Water. Yes, we also had flash flood warnings thrown into the mix yesterday. So I was really thinking when I got ready yesterday, I'm certainly using my Cali Ray Come Hell or High Water because it's one of those days. I hear geese outside. Okay. On the lips. I feel like I need a fuller and longer story about these guys. CoverGirl sent all these Outlast lip stains. They've done these before. They didn't make them as skinny, but the same kind of marker stainy idea. Generally speaking, the ones that look like they're in the neutral family, in a swatch test, you swatch these out, they'll maybe start out looking, some of them kind of like these. Actually, I take it back, a couple of these pinks look totally different. They're not all just what you see is what you get colors, okay? I'll take you through in more detail on this, maybe in a short or some other video, but you got your neutrals, somewhat, some of them looking like neutrals, and then they don't really stain the way the pinks and reds do. And these all stain ultimately in a hot pinky tone. Even the reds, as you look at the way it's wearing, it might have a little bit more of a reddish pigment at the onset, but ultimately that pigment wears away and you end up with a pinky stain. And that's what a lot of stains default to, is this hot pink. I can't share about all of these today, but what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use natural blush. Okay, and we're gonna use this. I'm gonna remove a little bit of whatever remains from the Rimmel. I'm gonna use this practically like a lip liner, and we're just gonna create a look out of it. So it's a marker. It's a marker. The more neutral looking shades, again, will not stain you hot pink. But there was one color, I think it was this one, that looks super natural. And it's like, no, it is gonna be dark berry. You know, like they're just not all what you see is what you get on the packaging. So yeah, more needs to be done on that. I'm kind of using it the way I'd use a lip liner, and I'm creating definition on my lips. Don't get me wrong, even some of these that like didn't last as long in my stain test and wore away a whole lot faster, they still end up lasting fairly well on my lips. So again, this is called Natural Blush. I find it a bit harder to get a really even application coloring these on, you know what I mean? I would not struggle with that at all with a lip liner. I'm kind of struggling with it now. I want to see that get even all over the lips. And it's kind of hard. But you know, I've been seeing a lot more browns being worked into looks as lip liners, kind of around the outside, different things, but then lighter stuff added on to make it look more nude-ish. So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to take a little bit of L'Oreal Ferris Nude and layer that on, kind of in the middle. I don't want to get too cool with these lips though, because I do have that kind of coppery shimmer. Then I'm going to take Stay Glossy from Rimmel in Bare Minimum and top off the whole lip with that. It has kind of a milkiness to it. Do we like that color? I think I want something a little warmer on top. Sorry, this is real life. Ooh, I know. Still got that stain under there. We got these new Buxom plump shots that are, this is Enchanted Berry. They have kind of a metallic look. Sometimes not always what you expect. They're a little shifty. I'm taking this shade that feels like it's got almost a little copper shimmer in it. That's pretty. And these really feel plumping too. The plump shots have more of like a spicy feel on the lips, whereas the regular Buxom lip polishes and lip creams are a little more cool feeling and almost soothing. But all right, there's my look for today, my friends. What did you think? What products did you enjoy? I'm really gonna be having fun experimenting with the new ColourPop palette. I just enjoy these a lot. And I think the look today is so pretty with that high contrast with the black and the copper. Other things I really liked, I loved having my Born This Way concealer back, because this is a really good concealer. A very impressive powder foundation, by the way. This covered quite a bit on the skin. This was a great little surprise. The Glow and Love on top, looking so, so radiant on the cheeks, but yet highly undetectable. I'm not gaga over this particular shade of the Rimmel Kind and Free. I think I still prefer the berry one over this. The Buttermelt bronzer was good, but like I said, you can find cheaper. The Outlast lip stains are kind of fun, kind of unexpected. I feel like, again, a lot more information needs to be shared on those, so I'll figure out a way to do that. But all in all, top favorite things in this look: ColourPop eye palette, the Wet n Wild Glow and Love used as highlight, and the brow stuff from CoverGirl. They did an amazing skinny micro fine brow pencil with the Clean Fresh Brow, and I do also really enjoy the gel wax. Holding my brows in place nicely, filling in fairly effortlessly, you know? And that's a cool gloss, by the way, that we put on top there at the tail end. Thank you all so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very soon. I love you. Bye.